Music, dance, theater. It's time to take a seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez. Hear from performers, producers, presenters, and creators who enrich our lives in the performing arts. Who's on stage? Here is Tom Alvarez to introduce you.
Hello, and welcome to On the Aisle with me, Tom Alvarez. Today we feature Clint Holmes, a concert and cabaret singer, songwriter, and Las Vegas entertainer.
Met in Rome as the night turned gold. We both knew we had found a hand to hold in the glow of that first cafe. As we fought for the words to say, we knew in this world we had found the one. The finale had just begun as we fell to the magic of new romance. We could take the chance.
You're listening to Clint Holmes singing A Perfect Trance. Join me now as I go on the aisle in a conversation with Holmes, who truly is a show business legend.
Holding hands on the Champs-Elysees.
Welcome, Clint. It's so great to see you. I haven't seen you since May of 2023 at Feinstein's at Hotel Carmichael.
My
With
gosh.
Michael Orland, your music director, pianist.
Michael is one of my favorite people. I love working with him, but part of working with him is hanging out with him.
Oh, I bet. You know, his bio and the people he's worked with in his career is just astounding. He was on this podcast, and actually, it was he who recommended that I reach out to you. So I'm so happy he did that. I would have anyway at some point. You know, I'm a reviewer in Indianapolis. And so over the years, my career here, a lot of people come through here like you did. You know, we have Michael Feinstein's Palladium, the Center for the Performing Arts. You know, a lot of people in the business are friends of his. So they book a lot of big people, cabaret people, concert people like yourself. So your assistant wrote me some notes. I understand that you saw him live, and he says, I'm really glad to hear that because you have to hear Clinton live, you know, to really appreciate him. And that's so true because unless you see people perform, just to hear them talk about it, it's one thing. The proof's in the pudding, right?
Well, I think that the intimate experience of a performer on stage and an audience, people say to me and many entertainers, one of the questions is, where do you get the energy? And the truth is, an entertainer gets the energy from behind him with the musicians and in front of him with the band. So an entertainer's right in the middle of the storm. So I think we're at our best when we are out there doing it live, doing it in the moment, responding to the band, responding to the audience. It's a magical thing, live performance, you know?
I wrote a review, and in that review, I reread it today because those are all blur too. But I reread it and reminded me of the things that stuck out for me. There were two of them.
Mhm.
The themes, if you will, your showmanship and your authenticity. Those are two things that really stood out.
Can I tell you something, Tom? That authenticity is the greatest compliment you could pay me, because I do believe that it's certainly at this point in my life and in my career, I throw away a lot of the trappings of entertainers that don't mean anything. You know, I mean, we all do it, but I've thrown away a lot of them and gotten deeper into lyrics and picking songs that really mean something to me. And I think that all feeds into that word, authenticity. So thank you for that compliment.
Well, I'll tell you where I'm coming from. I think we're the same age. I'm 77.
Yeah, I'm 78.
So we have the same frame of reference in a way,
Uh,
our history, our background. There are other things that you were so relatable to me in particular that set you apart from so many people I've interviewed over the years. You know, the fact that you're biracial,
mhm.
that is something else that's so unique about your story and how that must have influenced your view of the world. I'm Mexican American, and occasionally I do some talent work, and I'm known in the industry as ethnically ambiguous. That is a real,
I like that. I'm going to write that down and
I
remember it.
love that. I mean, think about it. It's you can play anything, you know.
Well, my background quickly is that my mom was a white British opera singer, and my dad was a black American jazz singer who met during World
Yes.
War II. So growing up in that house, I was hearing literally my mom's opera, my mom's theater. She loved theater. My dad would take me to jazz clubs when I was starting about when I was 12 years old, and I fell in love with that. So when I kind of came out of the chute as a someone who was going to do this, I had really strong influences from both sides. I think that I am the product of biracial, but also the product of a lot of different kinds of music that were accepted and played in.
And you had to deal with racism your whole
Oh
life.
yeah,
And,
yeah,
I think, the world is changing and our country reflects that the racial mix is changing. It used to be that there were a handful of you guys, and now it's
yeah.
living in a blue city in a red state. I'm very conscious, segregation still exists, racism is still rampant, but in our little corner of the world, people are much more open-minded about race and
I have three children, and if they walked in the room, one of them looks like a young black man, one of them looks like a young white man, and my daughter looks like she could be Mexican or Latino. So Latina. So they've all had different experiences because of that.
yes,
As they grew up.
yes.
How about you? Have you faced racism or have you
I have
ambiguity,
it,
as you put it?
because it's presumed by most people see more Asian in me than Mexican, and say, well, you don't look like a Mexican, and I say, what does a Mexican look like
Yeah,
exactly?
exactly.
It's probably, because I don't have a sombrero, not leaning up against a cactus or pushing
Yeah,
a tree or something like that. That ingrained thing that some folks have, they pigeonhole you and
I
they,
used to get, oh, you don't sound black.
yeah.
And and I would say,
But you
well,
probably got it from your own people though too, from black people. Like,
oh, that's the thing that I had.
oh,
I
you
got it
talk
from both
white.
sides.
You talk white, right? And
Yeah,
I get it. Well, you don't have an accent, so you can't be a real Mexican. It's just like
I know. It's so
become
silly.
it becomes amusing, you just like learn to live with it. But
And that's part of what you said before about authenticity. I think that I have stopped trying to be what someone thinks I should be, sing songs that someone says I should sing, all of that kind of thing.
yeah,
And my show, and you've seen it, is a mix. It's a big mix of all kinds of music. I love theater. I love jazz. I love pop music. I write a lot of music. So now when I work, I do all of that, you know.
yeah. Well, I would have loved to have been on the fly on the wall in your house growing up and having an opera singer mother and a jazz musician. I mean, wow, that
Yeah.
just makes my mind explode. I mean, the music that you were exposed to. Did
Well,
they?
The Ed Sullivan Show was the big show back in the
Oh, yeah.
every Sunday night we'd watch it. And that's where my mom would point to Ezio Pinza and my dad would point to Billy Eckstein and Nat King Cole and I would point to the Beatles and Elvis Presley. So it was all there and our family embraced all of it.
That was my introduction to show business
Mhm.
too. And it was remarkable the people that Ed Sullivan, he launched the careers and like the night of the Beatles. Do you remember being at home and
Of
you're
course.
and watching it? What was your impression?
Well, the first time I saw the Beatles,
Yeah,
uh,
on TV that night.
I think that I was like everybody my age at that point, so excited to see them. And it's not like now. You can see anything anytime you want to see it. Boom. Any group, any singer, it's all on the internet. In those
Uh,
days, you waited all week because the Beatles or Elvis or Belafonte, whoever it was going to be on the Ed Sullivan Show. So it had built up to be an event, literally an event. So I just remember sitting there absorbing how different they were at that point. There was kind of nobody out there like them,
mhm.
and I love them. And I remember watching, especially Paul and John, their faces and trying to figure out who they were because I
Mm.
already knew I was going to do this, even from I don't know how old. So everybody I saw, it was a lesson. It was a leaning in. Sammy Davis, all of those people that I was learning. So I was learning from the Beatles. I don't know
Mhm.
that I fully appreciated their genius the first time I saw them, but I appreciated that they were unique and special.
Did you early on, you said you knew that you were going to be an entertainer. Okay, today I was listening to one of the shows today, and there was someone on who was talking about how to vision. People have vision boards and people,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of artists are visionaries. They can see it, they can feel it, they can touch it, and then they make it happen. And everyone can do that. But then there's the other question, do you, and I love this, do you manifest? You manifest it's going to happen, and it happens because you made it happen. Do you do that? Or have
I
you done?
do, and so does my wife. My wife, who's also Kelly, is also an entertainer. We talk about that all the time. When we get frustrated about something, we sit down and we go, okay, put all the other stuff aside. It's going to happen. And I'm going to be open to every avenue that presents itself to make it happen. Quick story. I was in the middle of writing a theater piece, but I was performing in Vegas. I had a showroom in Las Vegas, but I was writing a theater piece. And there's always this thing in New York, like New Yorkers, theaters are like, oh, Vegas, forget it. Vegas, you're not coming. And I was in the middle of that kind of like, will I ever be able to get to New York by playing Vegas? And I get a call that Hal Prince is coming to my show because he was opening Phantom of the Opera at the Venetian, and he was going to come to the show. And so I'm, of course, excited. I do my show. Hal Prince comes down to my dressing room and says, "You should be on Broadway." And it was like, there it is. There it is. The answer to my manifestation was someone like that saying that to me. So yeah, I believe in that. Yeah.
Yeah, I listen to you and things remind me of other things. And I just realized that I wanted to make sure that we talked about Will Nunziata because
I love Will.
you do in your show that I saw.
Uh-huh.
There's so many connections there. I interviewed Will on this podcast because his brother, I'm a big supporter of and a
Uh-huh.
fan and a friend,
Anthony.
and Anthony. And Anthony's played Feinstein's number. You guys have crossed paths all over the place,
Yeah.
And I'm sure of course, you know Anthony. But I interviewed Will about his theater career. He's getting hot, isn't he?
You know what? Yes, he is. He's got a lot of projects that he's either written or that he's directing. You know what? So Will came out to Vegas. I'm making this up a
Yeah, I
little.
want to know how that happened. Yeah.
I'm making this up a little bit. It might have been 4 years, or it might have been 3 years. And he told me he was coming out for a wedding. He said, but let's get together and have lunch. So we got lunch, and he said, I want to do a project with you. What do you want to do? And I said, well, there's a couple of ideas I have. And I mentioned I was writing a show of the music of Stevie Wonder and Bill Withers. And he said, oh, I like that. And then I said something else. And then I said, but you know who I've always loved is Peter Allen. And he
Yeah.
said, that's it. And so we started working on that, and I loved working with him, because he's so open. He has strong ideas, but he immediately listens to your ideas. You never feel like it's always about the best idea. That's what I love about working with Will. The best idea, he'll say, "Here's what I'm thinking," and I'll go, "What about this?" And he'll go, "You know what? That's better, right?" And I work that way too. So he is.
So it sounds like both of you are not precious, that you're willing to share. But when you collaborate with someone,
Uh-huh.
do you have, and it's a given, I would believe you would say, yes, I do. I mean, you have to respect them, right? And
Absolutely.
trust them,
And
right?
there's no, and you know what, as a songwriter, I did this 2 days ago with a wonderful songwriter here, and we had not written before. And I said, okay, the only rule I have is there are no stupid ideas. I don't want to feel if I say blah, 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 you're going to go, oh no. And I promise I won't do that, because, then you go, oh, you know,
You don't dismiss people.
right. And sometimes, you've done it too. You say something, and while you're saying it, you go, oh, well, that's kind of stupid, but
Yeah.
that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
Because an idea that doesn't work, it's like, well, no, not that, but this, So yeah, collaboration is my favorite
Well,
thing.
I think there's
Right?
nothing more fun than collaboration because the brainstorming part, you just throw shit up against the
That's
wall,
that's what I'm talking
see
about.
what sticks,
And you know what? As long as it's not judged, then you can
Sure.
continue throw it up against the wall.
Yeah, I on the side I do a lot of other things. I'm also a producer and I'm creative. But anyway, you have to be with people who are secure too, because if you're not, it's hard, you
You
know.
know who I'm writing a lot with Frank Wildhorn right now.
I saw your credits, Jekyll and Hyde. I
Yeah.
love that
You
score. Oh my
think? Yeah.
God.
And he's written so many great shows, Bonnie and Clyde, Jekyll and Hyde, the Civil War, great song. And we've been friends for years. We met each other back in Los Angeles in the '80s. You
Hmm.
know, and he was writing for Whitney Houston and people like that, and maintain the friendship. And then during the pandemic, he was in New York and I was here in Vegas, and he wrote and he said we should write together, and we started writing, and we've written about 25 songs. And some of them are being recorded by artists like Jane Monheit is recording 3 of our songs. Amy Atkinson, who's a West End star, is recording 3 on her next album. And we're putting together an album. And that's a very different collaboration because Frank will send me a melody. Just here is a melody and maybe a title or an idea. And then I set about trying to figure out what it is, and I'll send him a first draft of a lyric, and he'll look at it and he'll think about it and he'll say, I really like this, but maybe you should work on this, and how blah blah blah. And he lives in Hawaii, so I've been there to work with him, but it's a different kind of a collaboration, but I love it. It's not in the room, it's
Yeah.
more, how about this, how about that. I'm blessed to have people like Frank to work with and write with.
Something is said about longevity, isn't there? That you've intersected with so many incredible artists. I was looking at some of the stuff your assistant sent. Of course, I've seen all your other biomaterial. I mean, when you came to Indianapolis, I did my homework then because I wanted to know more about you. But there's so many names that come across in your career that you've worked with. But what were some of your favorite experiences? I mean, obviously the association with Frank is one, but you probably had so many that it's hard to like remember them all, right?
Oh, I'm writing a memoir, and I'm writing it in terms of here's a story. Let me tell you this story, right? And one of my early stories was about meeting Frank Sinatra. I had been a fan, of course, all growing up and all of that. And I got a gig in Monte Carlo at the Sporting Club for a big gala. And I heard, among the many other people, Jane Seymour and Roger Moore and on and on, Prince Rainier. It was a huge thing. But I heard Sinatra was going to be there. So I said, I'm going to get a chance to perform in front of Frank Sinatra. Right before the show started, the stage manager comes back and says, just to let you know, Mr. Sinatra's party will be leaving. They're not going to stay for the show. And I said, why? And they said, well, we don't know. He's not staying. So when I came out on stage, he was still there. His table, it was kind of a oblong to anyway. He was at the head of the table. I said, okay, if he's leaving, I'm going to jump off the stage on my first song and I'm going to shake his hand. And if he leaves, at least I've done that, right? So first song, I'm singing, I jump off the stage and I shake everybody at the table's hand and I shake Sinatra's hand and I go back up, and the women at his table started throwing roses at my feet after the first number. So they stayed the whole show. They stayed. Sinatra led the standing ovation after the show, but I didn't get to meet him.
Okay.
The next day, I'm standing outside the elevator at the Hotel de Paris, getting ready to go to dinner, and the elevator door opens, and out walks Frank's Barbara, his wife, 2 other people, and he sees me, and he walks over to me, and he goes, "You were marvelous," and walks away.
Oh my gosh.
And my wife was in the restroom, so I was by myself, and she comes out like Frank Sinatra just came over and slapped my face and told me I was. So that's my Sinatra story, and I never got to talk to him again, but that one time in Monte Carlo.
So did you manifest that though?
I manifested that I was going to make an impression on him.
Okay.
You know,
Remember what you sang that kept them at their table? What were you singing?
in those days, my opening song was called "Take It Uptown."
Hmm.
And it's kind of a shuffle. Take it uptown, take it uptown, like that kind of a thing. And there were dancers at the Sporting Club in Monte Carlo. It was a big opening number. And it was a breakdown section where you say, okay, everybody join me. Hey, get up. And everybody would clap along. So it was that kind of a convivial, fun opening number. So it was the right kind of song. to do what I did. I hadn't planned on doing that until I knew Sinatra was going to leave. Then I figured, well, if he doesn't stay, at least I'm going to shake his hand, you know?
Yeah.
So
So, what did you take away from Frank Sinatra? Was he an influence in your own work? And if so,
sure. How could he not be? You
yeah.
know, but there were many others for me. Sammy, who I got to be really friendly with, he was a friend. Belafonte, another one that I just admired how he presented himself and his rhythmic sense. And again, very fortunate to a friend of Harry's.
Someone like you with the career you've had, you've been referencing how your age has given you some new gifts, if you will, aging.
Mm, mm.
One is the life experiences you have. So you're a conglomeration, if you're an entertainer, you're not of everyone that you have admired and loved and whatever.
I think so. You learn.
Sinatra, though, I know a lot of singers talk about his phrasing.
It's
Yeah.
his storytelling. It's
Mhm.
his storytelling. When I do master classes here in Las Vegas, and I also teach a lot of kids, that's one of, hopefully, will be one of my parts of my legacies, that I work with a lot of talented young people. And the first thing I ask them, I say, okay, what is your first job as a singer?
Yeah.
What is it? And they'll say things like, oh, you got to know the words. Oh, you got to, sing the melody right. Oh, you got to, and I'll say, okay, yes, all of that is true, but you got to tell the story. That's
Mhm.
your job. You
Do you
tell.
ever ask them? Do you ever ask them, like, what's the song about?
Oh, that's what I teach. That's the first is what it's about from the writer's point of view, and then what's it about from your point of view?
Mm-hmm.
Why are you singing it? Is there a reference in your life? I love that stuff. I had a great teacher named Larry Moss, who was an acting coach and a director. I was doing my show in Vegas, right? And I had a theater named after me for 7 years. That was the Clint Holmes Theater at Harrah's in Las Vegas. It was an incredible run. We sold out virtually every night for 7 years. I was on every billboard, all that stuff. And Larry Moss, this director, comes into town, and I never met him. He sees my show, walks downstairs to my dressing room, grabs my arm, and he says, "Why are you here?" I said, "What do you mean? Why am I here? This is my showroom." And he says, "No, no, no. Why are you here and not in New York and not in Paris and not in London?" And I'm kind of like, "Who the heck are you? What is this about?" And he said, "I'll tell you why. This is the first meeting at dinner afterwards." He said, "I'll tell you why." He said, "Because you have done this for so long and you have tricks, because maybe one night you were working and there were only two people in the room. So you have tricks. You have tricks." He said, "But here's the thing. You don't need the tricks. You have to get rid of the tricks." And he
Mm-hmm.
sat and watched my show night after night and would say things like, second verse of the second song, "Why did you walk over there stage right? Why did you go there?" And I would say, "I don't know." And he would say, "Well, then don't go there. Give me a reason." The reason might just be because you wanted
Through
to connect
motivation, which is a
all of those things. And
acting. Yeah,
so
yeah.
that's what I hope to teach. That's what I try to teach kids who are talented, but really don't have any idea about all that.
I've had the great fortune of sitting in on a master class with Marilyn May and
Sure,
Duncan
Marilyn.
Calloway. And
Yeah,
I just love you guys who that kind of work and working with young people.
yep.
It's such a generous thing to do, by the way.
Well, I think we all want to pass it
That,
on.
that to me is authenticity. You can tell, and I could tell too that you're not a phony. Let me just put it that way. You are who you appear on stage because we met afterwards, and I always look at that, when I do meet and greets and I meet people. And it always is striking to me when I really see that reflection of that real person who's talking to me who's on stage. And so each song, and yet what I love too is the fact that you made each song a piece of theater.
Thank you.
It was a little gem, each one, the storytelling. It wasn't just someone, and the same thing, the parallel in acting too. Do I believe you when you're playing this character? And if
Right,
you're just acting,
right,
you
right.
yeah,
And again, it's because I love Anne. I mean, I work with Anne. We have a project right now. We have a CD that just came out, an album.
really? Why am I
Yeah,
not? All right, what's it called?
2 days ago it came out. What we did is, Maurice Hines had a Broadway show called Tapping Through Life.
I've heard of him,
Yeah.
yes. I don't know.
Gregory Hines, Maurice Hines, the
Oh
brother.
yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
of course. Okay.
So the people who produced that, the Diva Big Band, which is an all-woman big band, which is fantastic.
The
Uh,
Diva Big Band. I've
yeah,
not heard of them yet.
yeah. Oh, you'll hear now because you'll follow the thing. Anyway, they asked Ann and I to recreate the music that Maurice had sung in his show, which we did at Birdland in New York last summer, and then we recorded the album with the big band, and it came out 2 days, literally 2, 3 days this week. It came out this week.
Wow.
And it's called Tapping Through Life, and it's Ann Hampton Callaway, and it's me and the Diva Big Band, and I'm very proud
Wow.
of it.
And have you also worked with Liz?
No, I haven't. I love her, but I've not had the occasion to work with her.
I had the great opportunity to have them both on this podcast not that long ago.
Hmm.
They tried to get together and do acts together.
They
They
do.
did a thing at 54 Below recently, I think.
Oh, they're both great. You know who else I'm working with is Amanda McBroom. Do you know Amanda?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
She was at Feinstein's. Yeah, and I interviewed her as well. Yeah.
I'm writing with her now. That's a lot of fun too. She's brilliant.
Oh, she was a lot of fun, that interview too. Talk about authenticity. She
Yep.
too, speaks
And
from her
smart.
heart.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, she's so smart. You know.
Let's take a break and listen to Clint sing At the Rendezvous.
So when I was about 12 years old, my dad, Edward Lewis Holmes, started taking me into Buffalo, New York to hear his music. See, I was too young to go at night, but they started to do jam sessions, 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoons. And my daddy would take me in. Some fathers take their kids to ball games. My dad took me to jazz. Sunday jam, and there I am, just my dad and me, slapping 5, talking jive, cool as we could be. Top of the stairs, smoke everywhere, waitress would smile, flirt with my dad a while. I didn't care, I just wanted to be there at the rendezvous, down at the rendezvous. Now the band, they'd warm up slow, 'cause we all know they play till 3 a.m. Spent their cut on who knows what. Now they're back to jam again. Piano man counts off of the band. Sad saxophone, bluesy in his tone. Drummer and bass, I can still see every face at the rendezvous. Me and my dad down at the rendezvous. We do big better than duty. Shut it out on fire to the. We do big better than duty. But I don't bow. Time would fly, so would I, riding on each tune, soft and low, mood indigo. We'd swing how high the moon. Sundays at 3, that is where I'd be. Me and my dad, they were the best times we had. Nothing could top learning bebop at the rendezvous, down at the rendezvous. We do be better than So my daddy would say, hey, son, you got to listen to the musicians. Listen to the way they play, because that's the way you're going to learn to sing. He'd say, listen to the drummer, because that's where the whole rhythmic thing comes from. I'd listen to the drummer, and the drummer would say, Zah! Kazoo gat gat, kazoo gat 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 gat, zigga gat gat. Zigga da gat, zigga gat, zigga gat, zigga gat, zigga gat gat. Brackadoo, 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 bow. Zigga go, gat, zigga go, gat go, big go, ga ga ga. And then once in a while, we'd get lucky on a Sunday afternoon. And Joey D would stop by to play the B3. And everybody would sit down and just say, hey, Joey, play. Sunday jam, there I am, just my daddy and me, slapping five, talking jive. We were just about as cool as we could be. Top of the stairs, smoke everywhere. Waitress would smile and flirt with my dad. I didn't care, I just wanted to be there at the rendezvous. Talking about down at the rendezvous. Me and my dad time. Let me tell you, those were the best times I had with my dad. Hanging with my daddy.
So are these people that you encounter along the way and it's like an informal thing? Hey, we need to work together sometime.
Yes.
Does it happen like that? It's organic.
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes it's exactly that.
Yeah.
And once in a while, it's like an intentional thing to write together or to work together. But with people like Anne, we just crossed paths so many times, and through that process became friends and fans of each other.
Have you ever thought about doing like a duets album?
That's a good idea. I don't know why I haven't explored that.
All the people it would be really special, don't you think?
Yeah. It would. And Anne would, and Amanda would be my first calls,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell me about your relationship with Michael Orland, because we have another connection. He's a vocal coach for a young lady who lives here,
I met
Amelia
her.
Ray. Oh, you did?
She came to the show while we were there. Yeah. Mhm.
And she's like his niece or daughter, and he's really done a great job of, discovering her and elevating her career. But how did you, and he told me this story, but tell our listeners how it is that you two came together.
Well, I had met Michael before, years ago, through Susan Anton, actually. But I was in New York doing a show with Susie Mosher, who had a kind of it wasn't an open mic, it was a show with a lot of guests, and she invited me to do it. And
And for our listeners, she is a comedian, actress,
Yes.
singer. And she was best known for what? There are a couple things that she's done. Yeah.
I met her as a cabaret performer, and
Okay.
she's just special.
I didn't
So
know
anyway,
that.
she invited me to do her show, but she said, if you don't have to, don't bring your music director. I'd love for you to work with Michael Orland, who's going to be the musical director for the show. I said, great. So I worked with Michael. We had a great time. And then after the show, I said to him, he said, what are you up to? What are you up to? All that kind of conversation. And I said, I'm thinking about doing a Peter Allen show. And he said, I'm in. I said, well, I don't know if I can afford you, which was honest. And he said, well, I would really love to do it. And so we just started, like over the internet and started working on it. And then he came to Vegas and we sat down with my great friend Bill Fain, who passed away, who the three of us put together. And then Michael just took it to the limit with me to do the show. And doing that, I fell in love with him as a friend, as a worker, as a pianist, as an accompanist, his wisdom is great. He really knows what he's doing.
Well,
Uh,
there's a reason for our listeners who don't know who we're talking. Michael Orland was a judge for American Idol for 8 seasons,
he
right?
was no, he worked with the kids. He,
Yeah, right. That's
he worked
right.
with the
Oh,
contestants. Yeah,
he was the coach. He was the coach. I mean,
coach. Yeah,
oh, right. Yeah.
backstage coach.
Yeah. And boy, all the lives that he touched doing that work, you know? So I've learned in your world that oftentimes the people you love working with aren't always available. So it's not
Right.
uncommon for you to have two or three people you can depend on, right?
And I do.
Yeah.
I have a few. I work with Billy Stritch sometimes. Um,
Okay.
I have a great accompanist here named Bill Zappia here in Vegas, and I work with Michael whenever I can. So yeah, we have to well, Michael has all sorts of projects going on, so it's not like every time I have something I want to,
Yeah.
you know,
And he's
attach
got a
it
lot of
to.
big names on his client list, if you will. And Billy Stritch, the great music director, pianist, he's all over the place. He's been here a couple of times at Feinstein's with different performers.
Yep, yep.
And he's been here with Jim Caruso, who I'm sure you know. Jim knows everybody.
Yeah,
Everybody's been on his stage. Have you been on his stage
many
at
times.
Birdland every Monday night, right?
Cast party in New York every Monday, but he does it here in Vegas about 3, 4 times a
Yeah,
year.
they're traveling. That's how they end up coming to Indy. They've been here twice.
I just did it with him in Palm Springs. Jim and Billy have become great friends. Yeah.
So have you done any concert work with symphonies of late?
Not of late. That's an area I really want to climb back into. It's my career has been interesting. There was a period of it leading up to Vegas that I was doing symphonies. I was doing big shows on the cruise ship circuit. I was doing a lot of things. But once I came to Vegas, I was here for, like I say, 7, almost 8 years, 6 nights a week. So I didn't do anything but this.
Mhm.
When that run ended, then I started to kind of get back out into the quote unquote real world, and symphonies is one of the things that one of the areas I really am working now on
How
reestablishing.
does that work? Is that kind of an out of sight, out of mind with people who book symphony artists?
Yeah, I think so, and they also book a long way ahead.
Yeah,
This next season for the symphonies is
right.
probably mostly booked, so yeah, you have to kind of climb back in gradually.
Have you ever worked with Jack Everly, our pops director here in Indianapolis?
I met Jack a couple of times, and he and Ty came to see me, and we spoke afterwards about working together. But I was in Vegas at the time, uh,
Yeah.
so it never happened. But that's someone that I'm reaching out to now because I'd love to get back to working with him. He conducts several orchestras.
And his reputation precedes him, so he's often bringing big Broadway people here,
Yeah,
regular basis. I don't even have to leave Indianapolis because all these people come to our town.
isn't that
And
great?
it's wonderful. It really
Yeah,
is. And no one has a better view of this market than I do in terms of the landscape. And I can tell you that this is really becoming an entertainment hub. And like that, Michael, you saw the Palladium, and you know that Michael's the artistic director there.
right.
They're gonna be building a standalone Hall of Fame for the Great American Songbook. Construction's gonna start, and it probably be 3 or 4 years, but it will be a destination place, and that's probably gonna make things even bigger here in
Yeah,
terms of whatever. But back to your career. So, what was the last recording that you did?
the last recording that was really out there was an CD, an album I did called Rendezvous. We got 2 Grammy nominations for that CD.
Hmm.
It was produced by Greg Fields, who Monica Mancini's husband and a great director. He produced the Mancini 100 TV show that was out, and that CD. That was very exciting. The Count Basie Big Band was on that. I did duets with Jane Monheit. I did a duet with Lettucey. I did Dee Dee Bridgewater. That was a very exciting album. That was 5 years ago.
Mhm.
So I'm now my next one will probably be with Frank Wildhorn.
I think that you're probably one of those performers. You're a singer in a way, a cabaret singer, because the people that you work with in your body of work, it's just it occurs to me that there are probably people that you've influenced in the business. I'm sure people tell you that, right?
I do get that, and I love that.
Hmm.
I remember when I first started, when I was out there really working in
Hmm.
major rooms and major places, I said my goal is to do a show that anyone and everyone would like, but that if Tony Bennett came in, he would like.
Hmm.
You know what I mean by that?
Your show, for me, I've seen all kinds of formats, if you will. I've seen acts where the performers, it's a mix of anecdotes, their show business anecdotes or personal stuff. I've seen people get really personal talking about their divorces or their sexuality or whatever, their alcoholism or whatever. And then I've seen people who don't even go anywhere near any of that stuff. It's all so, and they play a character. So I've seen all kinds of combinations. But a thing that struck me about you, the storytelling you did not only with the songs, but the rich stories you had to tell about your mom and your dad and some of your life, the ups and downs, so the whole thing, I thought, as far as story, it was a really good script and a really good song.
I tell you, it's hard to talk about this man anymore, unfortunately. But I had a great relationship with Bill Cosby early in my career, before
I
any of
saw that.
yeah
Yeah.
any of this craziness was
How have you reconciled all that in your own mind?
I'm I'm
For those who don't know what we're talking about, of course, most people know about Bill Cosby's troubles.
yeah.
And do you, oh, I'll let you tell me. I have a
Well,
theory.
I can honestly say I never personally saw any of that. I mean,
Right.
and I worked with him a lot anyway, but he did a lot of good things, a lot, helped a lot of young people. He did a lot of wonderful things. And then if all this is true, then he did a really bad thing,
Do you
and
think people should then lighten up and give everybody's flawed and everybody makes mistakes.
everybody's flawed and
Some
everybody,
people aren't giving him a pass at all.
again, I will always use the word if, and I'm not because I doubt it, just because I don't know firsthand.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's a very difficult thing, and
What do you say to
I
people who say, well, that's kind of a cop out. Come on, right?
it, well, I know Bill in a certain way, and I'm not, and in another way, I don't know him. But this stuff that he has been convicted of is terrible stuff. It's
Of
terrible stuff,
course. Yeah.
and there's
So
no in my mind no justification for it. And I understand a lot of people, just written him off, and I get it. I get it.
people who feel the same way about Michael
Michael
Jackson,
Jackson, sure,
it's a struggle, if someone that you
yes.
knew and loved or whatever, and this comes out and it's like,
It's devastating. I mean, devastating for his family, the women that
Mhm.
abused. It's devastating. And like you said, we all have our stuff, but that's pretty tough. Pretty
Yeah.
tough. So
Yeah.
what I was going to say is about Bill is that one night after I opened for him, he came out on stage and people were standing and cheering, and he leaned into my ear and he said, "Tell your story."
Oh.
And afterwards, we talked, and he said, "I know your story." He said, "But you don't tell your story on stage." And
Mm.
that's when I started to tell my personal story, about my mom and my dad, and what that was about. And after that, I started writing. I'm in the midst of writing a one-man theater piece that I'm hoping to get to New York next year. And
Another thing I saw you didn't mention in my review, but I'll give it to you now, is I also really deeply appreciated your willingness to be vulnerable.
that's authenticity, isn't it?
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah,
one thing, but not buying into all that macho stuff that, men can't be emotional, men can't be real, men can't really reveal who they are. And as a gay man too, I've had different layers,
right, right.
but I always appreciate men who are not afraid. And gay men are also, there are some of those, I mean, so we're not monolithic, but I
Uh,
really appreciate entertainers. I think that's great modeling actually for an audience to see that and to experience that.
I get a lot of times after the show, someone will come up and say, just simply thank you.
Hmm.
And
They ever tell you their story?
once in a while when there's enough time, but when someone says that to me, just simply thank you, I always assume that there was a connection that went beyond the music
Can you
to them.
see it in their eyes,
Yeah,
maybe?
yeah, yeah. And that's very gratifying. I had cancer of about 15 years ago.
I talked to
Um,
you about that. I remember you talking about that in your act, and I'm always very interested in those of you survivors.
I,
And,
I
and
was
what did it teach you?
Well, it taught me, for one thing, that I'm vulnerable like anyone else. I was one of these people who's been healthy, nothing, nothing, nothing. And I was in my 50s, and then they wake me up from a colonoscopy and say, you have colon cancer. And all of a sudden it's, that thing of like, me? You can't be
Mm.
talking to me, right? And then it slaps you in the face that it's a real thing. And everybody that we know is touched by it in some way, either them or their family or their friends. It just does. I was lucky. They found it early, and literally they found it on a Friday. I was in surgery the following Wednesday, and I was back on stage 2 weeks later. I was lucky,
Good for you.
and I'm really grateful for that. But I was also in the middle of a situation with my now ex-wife where I was trying to figure out how to move on with my life without destroying her, destroying my kids, and I was probably going to be stuck for a while until that happened, because that's when you say, wait a minute, it's not forever. And you owe stuff to your relationship, you owe stuff to your kids, but you also owe stuff to yourself. And 5 days after the surgery, I wrote a song in about half an hour called If Not Now When. And the whole theme of that song is, if you're not going to do the things in your life that you need to do now, what are you waiting for? You
Mhm.
know, and that has become I end most of my shows with that song. And my necklace says, If Not Now When. And
Mm.
it changed my life in that way. Let's go. Let's go.
So did you start a bucket list?
I never call it that, but I certainly do. I want my one man show to get to New York. I don't
Yeah.
have to have a Broadway show. I mean, 25 years ago, Broadway, right? Now I just want to tell the story in a theatrical way. So that if that's off Broadway, that's fine. So that is a real goal that I want to accomplish. There's some people who want to do a documentary on what we talked about, my mom and dad, and the journey of a biracial person to get to blah blah blah, all of that. I would like to get that done, and I want to continue to do what I do as long as Tony Bennett was still singing when he was 90, and I would like to think that I can accomplish that. Sure, things change, but my wisdom as a singer and as a writer, hopefully, will keep on growing. So I want to keep growing as an artist. That's it. I have a great wife. My kids are all good. I have a dog. My baby dog is lying right here next to me because she wants to hang around with me all the time. There's not much more that I need.
Tell me about your wife.
My wife is named Kelly. Her maiden name is Kelly Clinton, and mine
Mhm.
is Clinton Holmes. So her name is now Kelly Clinton Holmes, hyphenated Holmes. Kelly is a modern day Carol Burnett. She's a singer, a comedian. She's maybe the funniest person I know, and also, and that's part of the attraction, and part of, we've been married now 18 years. So
How did you meet?
we met here in Las Vegas.
Okay.
She's a performer here, and you kind of go out and you hear somebody and you see somebody, and I remember seeing Kelly and loving her talent, and then over the next 3-4 years getting to know her and becoming friends, and then somewhere along the line when my marriage was ending, we began, right? So we knew each other for about 7 years before we had that kind of a relationship.
Okay.
But she's one of the most talented people I know. She worked in the old days when she was in her early 20s. She would work with Wayne Newton. She worked background singer and did
Mhm.
some stuff with Wayne on stage. She worked with Engelbert Humperdinck. She had her own band. She is an entertainer who's entertained her whole life. So
Mhm.
that's part of what's good about our relationship is that she
Mhm.
understands my world and I understand her world.
She also took on a couple of kids, right?
No, my kids were basically gone.
Okay.
They were basically grown by the time. But I mean, she has wonderful relationships with all three of my kids,
Sure.
which is a real blessing.
Tell me about your kids.
My son Brent, who's the oldest, is a sculptor and a curator of art. Basically, he's working with the Los Angeles Museum of Art with a group of people. He's a part of it to bring an adjunct of that art museum to Las Vegas. So he lectures, he writes. He had an article in the Sunday Times, New York Times in November. He was also featured in GQ magazine as kind of a tour guide to underground Las Vegas. He's kind of a
Oh,
bohemian, very talented young man
oh,
named
impressive.
Brent. His brother Cooper speaks fluent Japanese. Cooper is also a writer, writes movie scripts, and he works as a performance usher at a show here called Ka. It's one of the Cirque du Soleil shows. And when Japanese tour groups come in, Cooper is their guide because he speaks fluent Japanese. So that's his day job, and he writes mainly movie scripts. We had lunch the other day, and like every artist, he's frustrated right now, but I just say,
Mhm.
keep on writing. And my daughter Brittany has her master's degree in kind of social work. She's a fundraiser and a vice president of communities and schools, which reaches into the inner city and works with kids. And she's very successful in the corporate world. So they're all doing well.
Did they ever meet their grandparents?
Yeah, but very young. They
Yeah.
they knew my mom. I moved my mom lived to be 95. I moved her here in the early 2000s when I had my dad passed away in 1998. So they knew him, but they were very young.
What did
But
they think of
mom,
your success? I mean, did they come to your shows? Were they like, oh,
yeah. Uh, yes, yes, they do, especially Brittany. But it's funny you should ask. The boys took me out to lunch this week to celebrate some combination of my birthday and Father's Day. I don't know which it was, but anyway, after the lunch, we were standing in the parking lot getting into our cars, and they started to do impressions of me. And it was hysterical. And I watched them do this, and I said, "So you guys really have paid attention through the years?" And they said, "We couldn't help it, Dad. We came to your shows, and blah blah blah, and everybody would stop you and say how great you were, and we'd be like, yeah, he's great, and all these impressions that they had when they were growing up. So yeah, we have a great, a friend of mine when I was going through my divorce said to me, if you handle this right, your kids will have a continued relationship with their mom and their dad, and they'll just understand that it's just two separate people. It's not mom and dad anymore. It's mom and it's
mhm,
and we can love them both and we can have relationships with them both, even though they're not together. And that's what's happened with my kids.
mhm. So are you and your ex friendly?
We certainly celebrate our children's accomplishments
Yeah.
together. Our granddaughter Asia just graduated from college at the
Mhm.
University of Nevada in Reno, and we all went and we celebrated her all together. My ex-wife, my current wife, all the kids, their kids. So sure.
Well, that's such a, you're a modern family, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
more commonplace that people just work it out and for the kids.
Well, and the truth is the truth. There were reasons why my marriage broke up, and and we did therapy. My ex-wife and I went into therapy so that we could safely say, So when it ended, even if there was bitterness, even if there was anger, it was on the table.
Another reason I liked your show is I could tell you, I said, I bet you he's had some therapy.
Uh,
Because you were willing to be so genuine and just be out there and just, be real.
Yeah, I've been in therapy a few times in my life sometimes over specific things I want to deal with, and sometimes just in general figuring out. But I think in the marriage instance, I think I owed it. We were married for 30 years. I think I owed it to get stuff on the table in the safest
Well, I
way I could.
think I'm sure you can identify or relate to. I am so now geared towards being introspective and being reflective and changing. I want to change, continue to grow.
Bro, that's the
And
word. Yeah.
let go of fears and just sort of like, it's work, but it's worth it. I guess the goal is peace of mind. Is that something that you think about or interested in?
I think that when we stop growing, we kind of stop living in a
Yeah.
certain way.
You're going to have a really great memoir based on this interview and the stuff that you've experienced. Tell me about writing this memoir.
A couple of people encouraged me to do it. So I just started writing, and yeah, what do I know, right? So I just started writing stories and realized that I have really some interesting stories.
People have been telling you all your life, haven't they? You should write a book. I'm sure they have. So, what's your timetable?
I have to be better at my time because I went to New York recently with the goal of finding the director I wanted for my one man, a man named Jeff Calhoun, who directed Newsies and directed Maurice Hines' one man show. And I finally was able to hook up with him, and he wants to direct my show. So all that time, I had to be prepared to sit with him and say, "Here's the show. Here's some stories. Here's the ideas. Here's the songs." Once that I felt like we formed that relationship. Now I come back and I had to organize things for the potential documentary that these people want to do. And now I'm about 5 songs behind with my Frank Wildhorn writing. So it's kind of like the time. I've written about 20 chapters to the book. So I'm way into it.
What's your process? Do you handwrite or do you on your computer or do you
I do on
dictate?
Word. I do on
Uh-huh.
Word. I do it on Word. And one thing I've learned is not to judge my writing. I'll just write it, and then I'll go
Well,
back.
you've heard the term writing is rewriting,
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah,
So, of
well, I write regularly because I'm a journalist. So,
course.
but yeah, it's like, Tom, if you can like just transfer those skills to your own damn story. I don't know. For me, it's a struggle. It's a struggle between, oh, people won't care about this, and
Well,
then
of course, of course.
all that stuff.
But you know what? I used to have that conversation with my son Cooper when he was in his degree is in writing, right? And he would come home on whatever Easter or Christmas or something, and I'd say, "What? Let me see something you've written." And you're going to say you like it because you're my dad. No one else cares.
Yeah.
And you go, no, 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 that's not true. And I
Yeah.
used to use the comparison of Woody Allen. I said there are people who love Woody Allen movies
Mhm.
and people who hate Woody Allen movies, but
Mhm.
none of that is going to stop Woody Allen from making movies.
There you
So you
go.
can't. You can't. You just write your truth, your thing.
I'm really interested as well in covering celebrities, and that's the whole issue of fame and fortune. How have you dealt with your ego over the years? Is it a curse and a blessing? What is it for you? Keeping one's ego in check.
I honestly, I don't have that problem in a big way because I learned to be grateful for what I have. And I know that sounds like, ooh, but
No.
but it's really true because if I didn't have music growing up, the first time I sang, we lived in a town where we were the only family of color, and I'm talking about fifth grade now. Everyone else was Italian or Polish, and the kids would beat me up, and they call my mother names, and they go blah 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 blah. And then one day, for some reason, I sang "Here Comes Peter Cottontail" in class, and all of them applauded, and I went, "Oh, okay." Okay. So it's the whole thing started for me not only because of my mom and dad, but also because that was a place that I could be somebody. I've always looked at it as I'm grateful for this. This was a refuge, and I'm really grateful for the fact that for all these years I've made a living. So my ego isn't about that. Larry Moss used to say to me, "Go share your gift." When I get ready, sometimes go on stage, he said, "Go share your gift. Go share your gift." And I think if you look at it that way, of course, we all have egos. But, I mean, what is my job? To stand on stage for 90 minutes and tell people to look at me and love me and laugh at me and applaud me. That's ego.
It's
But it's,
okay to own that you like attention, isn't it?
yeah, but it's also what I do. And my wife changes the light bulbs in the house. I don't know how to do that. I can't change a tire. There's a million things I can't do, but I can sing songs and write songs and perform on stage. So I'm grateful. So I think when you look at things with grateful as you're kind of leading with that, your ego takes a back seat in that sense.
What about dealing with fame? I mean, you've been, it sounds like with a lot of entertainment, you've had ups, you've had downs, peaks, valleys. You're in one day, you're out the next day, and no one returns your phone calls, and you've been a star, it's never straight trajectory. Well, unlike if you're a Streisand, maybe.
Or yeah, well, of course, yeah. But no, you're right. And that's another thing. Now, there's a certain ageism that I'm facing for the first time in my career it's not a big old thing, but you kind of go, oh, and then you go, oh, well, why would they? And then you go, well, maybe I understand why they would. There are situations where someone will hire the 25-year-old who placed eighth in American Idol instead of me. And I get it. But it's a reality that we have to face. I've never been famous enough for fame to be in my way. I've been famous enough to be lucky in the sense of how people treat me, doors that are open to me, and that kind of thing. Quick story. When I wrote my first play in 1997 called Comfortable Shoes, and it was produced in certain places, and it was going to be produced in Chicago. The writer for but I was in Vegas doing my show. The writer for the Chicago Tribune came out to interview me. And he stayed for 2 days, and he came to my show, and we had lunch together and kind of walked through my life so that he could write this article before the show opened. And the second day he said to me, I just did an article on Billy Joel. The same idea, because his show was opening on Broadway. So I hung out with Billy Joel for 2 or 3 days. He said, here's the difference between doing that and doing this with you. With you, you get respect. People, you come in and everybody's happy to see you. You have your show, you get the applause, you get the whole thing. But we can walk in anywhere and no one is interfering with you. You have that world of respect and all of that. Whereas with Billy, we had to sneak in the back door places. We had to have security to stop people from bothering us. He said, so in a way, your world, you're not as famous as Billy Joel. So no one's interfering, but you get the respect. So that's kind of been my career. I've never had where they had to close a store so I could shop like they did with Michael Jackson or yeah, that kind of thing. So in that way, I've been, again, kind of fortunate,
Well, never say never. I'm going to manifest something here. That book is going to be on the New York Times selling list.
Okay.
And that documentary is going to be on Netflix.
Okay.
You're going to be an overnight success. So there you go. Right. Hey, it's been such a delight talking to you, getting to know you. And I'm going to follow and see what happens, so maybe we'll talk again someday after that book and that documentary, and I can say I knew him when,
Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate this. I appreciate the time. And yeah, let's stay in touch.
Yeah.
You're obviously someone who knows what's going on, both on the creative level and the business level and all of those levels.
Well, I hope whoever's listening at least in my market, will hear this and book you. That would be great to see you.
I'd love to come back.
Indianapolis, Well, listen, have a great rest of your day, and it's just been delightful. Let's now close the show with Clint singing, If Not Now, When?
I didn't have the hunger I have now. Now I am older, but I am stronger. And I no longer say someday, somehow. 'Cause I'm running out of time, running through my prime, running past where I've been. And if I don't start to live now, when will I be? When will I be everything that I can be, everything that I can see, everything that I can be? And if not now, if not now, if not now, when will I live?
Our thanks go out to our media sponsor, Urban Times. Urban Times is a monthly news magazine which serves as the official newsletter for 15 Indianapolis neighborhoods, offering news about development, arts and entertainment, and from the business community. Thank you for joining me on the aisle. Please subscribe to my podcast, and if you want to hear previous episodes, find them on the All Indiana Podcast Network, or listen to them wherever you get your podcasts. This is Tom Alvarez.
Who will take center stage on the podcast next? Your seat on the aisle with Tom Alvarez awaits. Follow Tom on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and make sure to visit tomalvarez.studio. Watch Tom every other Thursday on Lifestyle Live on Wish TV, and make sure to listen every week here on the All Indiana Podcast Network.